We're hopping into our next game. It's going to be HuK versus Semper in this first game on Orbital Shipyard, and the only game these two will be playing. But let's go ahead and jump in and introduce the players as we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Orbital Shipyard, the green Terran player. Give it up for Team Gravity's Semper.
And spawning opposite in the top right of Orbital Shipyard, the orange Protoss player from Evil Geniuses, it is HuK. We're gonna take a look at their head-to-head stats.
Yeah, very interested in these. As you can see, HuK doesn't have the best win rate versus Semper.
That is very surprising, actually, to me. HuK's always had a pretty solid PvT, I feel. But it looks like Semper has really had the upper hand in every head-to-head.
You know, it's so funny because Semper has actually won every single series that these two have played, but a majority of them, in fact, every single one of them was in 2015.
Wow.
And yes, one or two of them, I think it was two of them, were in Legacy of the Void. It was DreamHack Legacy of the Void, the first Legacy of the Void tournament that happened, the first major one, I should say. That was back in October, so still a while ago. And even before that was Legacy of the Ultras back in, I think June or July of 2015. And that was also a 3-0 for Semper. But besides those, it's been a very long time.
Yeah, that's a while. Oh, nice. Actually, HuK, okay, does let it go up.
Yeah.
Did block that wall in for just a bit. Made Semper maybe worry about the potential of
a depth pressure or something.
Yeah, with a pylon. Yeah, but HuK, or Semper, of course, scouting with that SED. Going to see that that's not the case. And throwing down actually a double gas after that racks expand.
Absolutely. And we are going to wait to see how things sort of play out. But I will note also, we brought this up during Semper versus me, but honestly, or I think it was a Semper versus HuK maybe, Semper was saying he's really not feeling very confident in this matchup. So we're talking about how, he's won all these games and everything versus HuK. Does he still feel confident in his play?
That's a good question. After even that game against No Regret, it wasn't clean exactly. It was a little bit scrappy, a bit of a slugfest. And traditionally he's always been very good against No Regret, so maybe he's not feeling maybe as good about that win as you'd expect him to be feeling. I don't know. I'd be interested to get inside of his head, see how he is actually feeling. But we do see HuK actually going for that scout, and Semper has gone for the low ground bunker just to be safe against that adept pylon pressure.
Yeah, low ground bunker is something I've always been a fan of in this matchup on this map, just because establishing that earlier kind of foothold on the low ground and allowing yourself to grab the earlier expansion is really nice. But factory going to be going up, and this is kind of a bit interesting just because I would say, Semper in general has really tended to rush toward those medevacs, and we talked about why. It really just fits into his playstyle. And I think we got to see a bit of that in the last game that TVZ he played versus No Regret. But finally we're seeing a return to TVP. Now you guys have a bit more context, if you aren't familiar with Semper, onto how he plays out that drop style, but he didn't really get a chance to make use of it against a player like HuK, because he just ended up taking a lot of drop harassment. HuK is, I think, a lot of the time a player that just relies a lot more on hitting a specific timing attack rather than doing like lots of small little harassment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he can do that harassment style if he's looking for it, but a lot of the time he is really strong hitting that aggressive timing that maybe you're not expecting, microing a little bit better than you're expecting, and all of a sudden he kills you with an attack you didn't see coming. But at the same time, I feel that he can play macro, particularly in PvP,
absolutely.
And we're seeing that with that relatively quick third Nexus.
Yeah, one of the cool things I always like about HuK, though, is that he will play macro games. He's actually very good at it. But he always has some kind of pressure that he puts on. He never just lets you sit by yourself the entire game. He always puts a little bit of pressure on. And we do see Blink going to be coming out, as well as a couple of observers. So we'll see if he tries to put on a bit of aggression, tries to deny a third for a little bit, just maybe keep Semper a little bit on the defensive. But of course, I also just like the decision for Blink, because if you consider Semper very well known as being a drop-heavy player, it makes sense to go for Blink.
That 3-gate Blink, especially on a map like Orbital Shipyard, there's so many potential places for an attack. You're going to feel a lot better if you have that Blink, and as we see, there's a Liberator coming out, so that Blink is going to serve him well. He is going for that Resonating Glaives behind that as well. Going to be getting that Adept attack speed. Is he getting... Yeah, it looks like +1 attack on those ground units. Going to really add to their potency.
Absolutely, and especially, you know, if the Marines don't have combat shields, I want to note, it has not even started up yet because there was that fast take up to the starport. Then what ends up happening is +1 attack Adepts will just barely be able to 1 or 2 shot the Marines. And of course they end up 2-shotting the SCVs as well, which is a huge deal.
It is a very big deal. State actually pioneered a build right after the patch came through where he got a very fast +1. Oh, looks like actually this Liberator, just barely escaping. I believe, that's 1 hit away from dying.
Yeah. And managed to get 2 kills and makes it out of there. Is going to be able to be repaired back up. And keeping that Liberator account alive for even just the defensive plays later on is going to be so important.
Yeah, that starport play is starting to become a lot like the way Protoss works in that you have such a limited resource in your robotics build time.
Yes.
Yeah. We're starting to see that be the thing for starports.
Yeah, you have to make the decision. Do I want to make Medevacs or do I want to make the Liberators? Or, I mean, God forbid if a Protoss player starts making Colossus, now you have to consider Vikings?
Oof. That's a lot of different options and a lot of scouting required.
Yeah. No chance they'll build a Banshee, though.
No, we don't think so, unless Ruff snuck his way into this tournament.
Not that I'm aware of, but we do have a nice little push out over here from HuK. Resonating Glaives is finished up. +1 weapon's going to be finishing up, and of course the Warp Prism. And this is what I mean, a nice little timing where HuK pushes out. Going to be getting there around 7:15, 7:20, seeing how much damage you can do. But of course, there is this 4th expansion trying to go up over here for HuK, but it gets scouted up by a Marine.
Yeah, I don't think he realized, but he actually would have, if he'd committed to that, he might have been able to do some big damage. No stim, no combat shields, +1 finished, but there's no actual... The tanks would offer a lot of defensive velocity there, but
absolutely. But I mean, he's been holding off for this Warp Prism to get into the backside, which is getting target fire down by his Cyclone. It does get taken out. Adept's going to be able to do a little bit of damage as they start starting to pick off some of these workers. But at the same time, HuK maybe tries to push in, but he sees that bunker and holds back.
Yeah, I think that's a good decision considering how many tanks there were back there. Still picking off several workers, yeah. Yeah, 8 workers total end up falling. And we are going to be seeing Psionic Storm being researched from HuK. This is a really game-changing upgrade in this matchup.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw what Psystorm can do with Puck versus Semper, I believe it was. And it definitely can really change the way that the matchup ends up being played out. And a lot of players have sort of realized, unless your name is Puck, that, hey, you know what? Psystorm, it can be a much more, I would say, reliable in a weird way form of AoE splash damage compared to the disruptor shots that give a lot more warning. You at least get some damage done before the shot goes off.
Yeah, the thing about that is you can continue talking about that robo time. You can continue building Immortals, and they are a much stronger anchor to your army, especially when coupled with that Psionic Storm. Obviously, Disruptors and Colossus have potential for more damage, but the Immortals just last so long and they're so durable. So just that little bit of extra damage from the Psionic Storm, it couples really well with, especially with +2 Immortals. Oh wow, Blinkstalkers.
Blinkstalkers gotta be very careful as those Marines and Marauders have a lot of medevacs backing them up. Even Liberator from earlier on, fully repaired and back ready for full health. But another drop actually coming in from the backside, picking off some of those valuable units. Really nice pickoffs over here from Semper.
Yeah, that was actually a very nice trade and takes a 25 army supply lead. That's a pretty nice comeback for Semper in terms of this group.
And actually, not having a Warp Prism is a huge blow to HuK's army right now, because he really just doesn't have an ability to reinforce this quickly.
Templar, big storm coming in.
Siege tank sieging up, though. We're going to see where they land their siege tank shots, and I think he's actually focus firing down those High Templar. Managed to get 2 of them. Liberator Zone does siege up for a little bit. Doesn't get a whole lot done, but does force HuK back, and he might even end up losing another one of these High Templar before he gets another storm off.
Yeah, this is starting to look very desperate for HuK. A lot of Adepts, but that's a very strong Terran army coming in right here.
Yeah, +2 weapons on those Stalkers, on those Adepts. So big storms
big
going down.
flanking storms.
Enormous storms going down, really changing the pace of this game. And now these Blink Stalkers can follow alongside the Adepts, going to try and continue to that damage. He does have to be careful. He does not want to overcommit into this, but he does a fantastic job. Pulls back at exactly the right time. Loses, again, a lot of those High Templar, which means he doesn't really have any more of those storms really available. But does he still have enough to defend now?
That is a really good question. He does have a ton of Adepts, but there's actually not a lot of Stalkers. Nice, warps in some more to deal with those Liberators.
Ooh, he also segmented off some of these Adepts to go down to the bottom right-hand base and try and harass it. We'll see if he ends up regretting that. Oh, Liberator does get taken out.
Last second cancel on those Shades.
Yeah. And here we go, Adepts coming into that bottom right-hand base. They say, oh, you have a planetary fortress? Well, that's fine. I'm just going to sit behind the mineral line where your planetary fortress can't actually reach me, and at least deny mining there.
Yeah, that's a nice move from HuK. Is going to end up losing those Adepts eventually, but not for free. That's a lot of mining time lost. And actually, he is going to shade... Oh, they all died. But he almost managed to shade those Adepts out of there.
Yeah, and kind of interesting, we do see the Liberator upgrade as 2 Liberators are out right now, but sort of surprisingly, we don't have any more Liberators being made, as now we finally start to see 1 Liberator in production, and Semper definitely has the resources to produce 2 at a time. He has a reactor, but I think he's just kind of taxed right now, trying to set up these drops, trying to move around. This is one thing I will say, Semper is great at these drops, even microing a little Cyclone in over here, but sometimes he does kind of overcommit to these drops, and kind of realizes, hey, you know what, I haven't actually been macroing as much as I want to back at home.
Big Widowmine shots on the Adepts there. Actually, wow, drawing the entire army out of position.
Oh,
might be able to snipe down this 4th.
Yeah, taking out the pylon, going after the 4th. There's no way this survives. Even the Mothership Core are going to go down. In fact, HuK going to have to pull his entire army over there because Semper is just going to continue to go ham. He's going to take out every single building over here.
Meanwhile, that drop on the right side is starting to come back in.
Oh, looking for an opportunity. There are some Adepts making their way over there, but not a whole lot. The Widowmine's even going to be able to get some nice hits off, softening those guys up. And look at this, the jukes from Semper. He pulls HuK's army, all those Stalkers trying to find this army, this drop on the left side. They move back in and say, did you try and retake that 4th? But here's where it becomes dangerous. He might get sandwiched over here.
He's playing ping pong with poor HuK right now. But yeah, you do say that. And this is a big risk. Actually, a lot of Blink Stalkers could go down.
Stalker is blinking forward very, very aggressively. And yeah, he does end up trading out more cost effectively.
Oh, no, the Templar. Oh, rip.
Oh, loses a lot over there. And we have a awkward situation where now HuK feels like he has to push across the map with no 4th expansion. With Semper's 5th expansion now floating over, he's got to make some damage happen. He still has a handful of High Templar, but not nearly as many as he would like.
But he does have a very large army supply lead. 3-3 is not yet done. And HuK might have himself a timing here where Semper is just overcommitted a little too much. Needs to get those Liberators in a really nice spot. That is a lot of Marines, but he has to watch out for some really big storms.
Yeah, you know, the Liberator's going to have a great time with all of this production facilities, all these buildings over here, really making it difficult for HuK to push on in. But at the same time, that means the Marine Marauder Bio Ball is going to have a very difficult time trying to make it through the storms. Oh, supply depots were down for a second, but Semper lifts them up at the last second. Not going to complicate his situation and make it even harder for him to come or defend over here.
Oh, man, those Widow Mines. Those have been there for some time.
Yeah, these Liberators setting up in a nice position, but they are going to be very, very vulnerable. Storms going down on top of them as well as everything else. And now Semper really just doesn't have much of an army to deal with this. Storms going down top with the SCVs as well. And again, zoning out this Bioforce.
Yeah, this is a really nice position for HuK. Still has a couple more storms with those High Templar. And he really needed those Liberators to be able to deal with the High Templar. Doesn't have any Ghost, doesn't have any more Liberators.
He's going to lose the Ghost Academy. He's losing the Starports that are building Liberators. And even though Semper has 2 more bases that are fresh in mining, he needs the production facilities to actually make units with them.
Yeah, Semper was looking in a really good spot after he'd sniped that 4th base, but he just overcommitted, didn't get the army out of there, and lost all of that army supply.
Oh, but it looks like HuK, not feeling comfortable of it moving into the main base, says, you know what, I don't want to lose this entire army, because once I go up there, there's no coming back. But I kind of feel like, you know, he would have actually stood a pretty good chance if he had gone up there.
I like the decision to play it safe. He was out of energy on his High Templar. He had a lot of units that don't do all that well in a Sim City. He would have been walking into potentially liberation zones, a lot of stimmed bio. I like the decision.
You know, I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, I gotta say, 4th expansion still very fresh. He's not even mining gas over there because he hasn't actually had the APM to spare this game with all this harassment with the Adepts coming in at that 5th expansion. Hasn't actually started mining any gas, and I kind of feel like he's under a timer, and he's already been maxed out, so the longer he waits, the bigger of an army Semper gets, and Semper still has the better economy.
Yes, what I would like to see is to see him swing his whole army over between the 4th and 5th locations and just cut off the 5th base, either kill that 5th base or force Semper to come out and engage in a position where it's going to be favorable for HuK. I think
he's looking to do it right now. He saw that the army was on the left-hand side of where that 3rd expansion was as his observer gets sniped off. And HuK is moving on in. He's even going to be able to catch a train of these SCVs. The SCVs turn around. But here is going to be a very difficult situation for Semper to defend. I think he's just going to give this up.
Oh, and even, yeah, there's no way he can save that, and he does lose it.
Unfortunate. But we end up seeing Semper setting up and saying, you will not push into my 4th expansion. But HuK says, well, I'm taking my own 5th expansion now, and it's in a pretty nice spot if I want to just continue the aggression against you.
Yeah, good decisions from both players there. HuK for deciding to swing his army around there, and Semper not taking the bait. But this Liberator, that is so far away from the mineral line.
He's got 4 kills, man. But if resources lost was measured in kills, this Liberator would probably be he'd be a captain. He wouldn't even be in the fight anymore. He would have actually been awarded a position back at home on Earth to control the fleets from afar.
And it would have been a good call.
Yeah.
Because look how much command he's issuing. Oh wow, the Mothership Core actually going down. A lot of High Templar there. HuK does spot it. Doesn't
kills
off
anything. Some of his own workers because he's busy trying to micro out the front, using some of these Adepts to pick off whatever stray units he can find over at this 3rd. But Semper, now he's not looking so great on the economy compared to HuK.
No, and HuK seeing that the 3rd base has not been retaken, he's got to feel really comfortable right now.
Yeah.
I very much like the idea of this position from HuK. You can almost sacrifice the left side base, maybe just build a Phoenix or Void Ray. Oh wow, Liberator's getting a little overzealous there.
Got to be very careful with Blink Stalkers around. You do not want to overcommit. Now, of course, HuK a little bit careful about blinking too far forward since he doesn't know what's sitting behind it. But a couple of Ghosts are in the mix, and they're going to be looking for those EMPs.
Yeah, this push is actually starting to... Oh, wow.
Nice snipes going on.
Yeah, big losses there from HuK, an Immortal and a High Energy Templar.
Yeah.
This is actually starting to look like a really scary push from Semper. If he can leapfrog these Liberators and hit some really clutch EMPs. Oh, but while I say that, big storms coming down. A big surround coming out from HuK. Is this going to be enough for Semper? I just don't think so.
Semper is getting cornered over here, and luckily for him, there is only 1 or 2 more storms left over, and HuK is not going to be going into it. But at the same time, Liberators are pretty good, and they are doing some serious damage, but the Stalkers are getting free reign on them. The Bioforce is gone, and I think that HuK has done it. I think he's going to defend this base.
I think just barely, but we saw some really nice target fire there from Semper, actually targeting down the High Templar with those Liberators. That is very high level play, and all of a sudden we see an even supply game after HuK was up so much. Oh, big storm right there, but so much in supply.
But there's no answer to these Immortals right now, Steadfast. They are just going to reign supreme over here. Marines, Marauders, none of them are going to do anything over here. The Liberator count has also been reset, and this expansion is forced to lift off. And yes, even though that one Liberator is still denying mining at the top left-hand base, finally a Phoenix is going to be cleaning that up. But, well, you know, unless somehow Semper can completely deny this expansion, there's still so much gas mining going on for HuK compared to Semper. They can just continue to make High Templars and Archons all he wants.
Yes, that is true. However, Semper did actually save the orbital command at the 5th base, and so he just re-landed that. And the army supply is very nearly even. And as we know, the number of workers that a Terran has does not necessarily indicate their economy.
Oh no, not at all. It does not account for those magical murals, but I love this observer from HuK on top of this army for Semper. It is going to get picked off. That is a little bit unfortunate for him. He really doesn't have the resources to spare.
No, not at all. Let's take a look at the income tab right now. Just get an idea. And Semper is actually ahead And yeah, he doesn't really need any gas right now. He's got 1,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
He can go through that pretty quickly by building Liberators.
Ooh, you know what I just noticed though? HuK did not end up getting +3/+3, so he's sitting on 2/2 upgrades versus 3/3 bio, and even got some of those beautiful, beautiful armor upgrades, or I believe for the mech army. So those Liberators.
Also important to note the Liberators. Yeah, that +2 air weapons, that does a
Ship
lot
weapons,
of damage.
yeah,
Ship
ship
weapons,
weapons.
yeah.
Yeah.
That does just
Adding
a ton of damage.
quite a bit of the damage to those Liberators, but you know, the game's sort of calmed down, even though HuK is still positioning and posturing himself out on the middle of the map, not afraid of any drops, despite how this game has gone. He's got that Phoenix to back him up, although while he wants to keep that alive, that Phoenix is surprisingly very important right now.
Yes, it really is. Oh, I don't like this from HuK.
Oh.
He cannot attack in here, losing an Immortal. That is a really important part of his army right now.
Yeah, and gotta be careful. There are no more ghosts around for Semper though, so these High Templars gonna find a little bit easier of a time trying to get those big storms off if Semper ever tries to overcommit, because he doesn't have to worry about those big EMPs.
Yeah, you know what? HuK has been pretty stubborn. He does not want to go up into Tempests, and Tempest would be the absolute answer to those Liberators.
I would
range.
argue he can't really afford it because, as you were saying, you know, the economy for both of these players isn't amazing right now. Yeah, HuK is sitting on 2 base economy. He could probably start to tech up right there, but as we say
a huge drop coming in
and shuts down another base.
And killing quite a few workers, actually, and HuK's not going to have enough to clean this up with those Adepts.
Yeah, HuK is actually, surprisingly,
and
he's still losing workers.
He's going to have to push in now to the 4th base, blinking forward aggressively. He takes down the sensor tower. That's nice, but there's still so many Liberators with so much bio. HuK's like a rat in a cage. Oh, and another, just a random smattering of Marines coming into the 5th base of HuK.
Where does Semper get these units? Where do they come from? But Storm does not care. A single Marine survives only for a couple seconds before the Adept takes him out. And we end up seeing that HuK, got it back out of those Liberator shots. A lot of those Stalkers and even the Immortal Shields being triggered at the same time. Another drop coming in. Photon Overcharge going to be useful against this, but it's not going to be enough to clean it up. The Adept is going to be a seal of the deal, though.
Oh, bit of an army getting caught out of position here for Semper.
Semper's starting to far down in supply in that army count. He's got to be careful.
Yeah, you got to be so careful in these low econ situations.
His Liberators, though, coming on up. And actually, I was mistaken in HuK actually falling down in army supply a little bit. Oh.
This is just so tense.
Liberators trying to find an opportunity to move in. In fact, if HuK gives up this location, if he allows this location to be sieged up, there is still not a lot of mining. He just has that top left-hand base, although, you know, you could say the same thing. It might even turn into a bit of a weird base trade.
But the thing is, HuK is losing a fully mining base for 2 patches on a mineral field.
And those 2 patches also come at a cost as a planetary fortress is there. HuK is a little bit indecisive as he loses that base, and at the same time a drop coming on the top left.
Can't afford those losses right there, losing 4 Blink Stalkers at the 3rd of Semper.
Oh no, HuK trying to
targeting down the Templar!
That is a beautiful play, and Semper gonna take a massive lead because guess what? There are literally 0 High Templar out on the map anymore. 1 more High Templar does actually warp in, but is not even have enough energy for a storm.
Semper is playing out of his mind right now. Absolutely. He's everywhere. I don't even understand where these are coming from.
He is just manifesting units out of nowhere. The Liberators going to clean up any of these Stalkers. Yeah, good luck getting past this. Even with the bio stimmed to death, these Stalkers still going to be more vulnerable. GG Semper with a bit of an upset, taking out HuK.
A big comeback from Semper. He was down so far in supply during that match, and he absolutely clawed his way back into that game.
He's not even smiling, man. He is just worn out right now.
Yeah. That was an exhausting game. You can see he looks ready for bed.
He is ready to go to sleep. He is just like, look, I earned that victory. Let me rest in peace. Poor HuK.
That was a crazy game.
That was probably one of the best games we've seen today.
I think so. I think that was my favorite game of the tournament.
A very scrappy game.
Yeah.
Of course, now HuK, after playing that, it's gonna go on to play versus Scarlet.
Oh.
That's one of those games that you just want to like. I think as you
just
said,
want to curl up in the corner.
Curl up in the corner. You know, take a break, take a little rest. You know, maybe eat some tortillas that we have.
Yeah.
Eat some cake.
Some cake.
There was some birthday celebrations going on earlier.
Yeah, that was pleasant. That was enjoyable.
That was rather enjoyable.
Yes.
And if we have any replays, we may end up going to those, because I would not mind some replays for
Yeah, that was really cool, and
Yeah.
it was very back and forth.
It was so back and forth. It was so scrappy. And I would say there were multiple points where I was thinking, you know what, such and such player, not looking so hot. They're going to have to make some miracles to make it come back.
Yeah, this was a nice move right here. Just denying gas, gets
Yeah.
a couple probe kills.
Yeah, it's just that small little bit of damage that just adds up. But you have to remember that this game did start off with HuK killing off quite a few workers with those adepts.
Yeah, he did, and that was nice. Losing a couple Blink Stalkers right there does eventually force the army back with those 2 Immortals. But
I loved it's this is a great example of just the positioning from Semper, where he was always, even from the beginning, pulling HuK into multiple directions. You can see over here, yeah, there's this big engagement going on, but if you also pay attention, there's a couple of little green dots over on the right-hand side of the map, getting some other stuff done at the same time. So it's just been an absolutely crazy game, and we did end up seeing this sort of situation where HuK was really just relying on those storms to keep him alive for a very long time.
Yeah, and this
Those
Templar
flanks.
flank was so nice right there. I think without those Templar, I think
this
maybe
would have been a
loses the
10-minute game.
Yeah.
This would have been a 10-minute game
Yep.
without those high Templars
Yeah.
flanking in.
Yeah, and this was a nice boost away.
Yeah.
And
It's again just pull to the right, the hit from the left. No matter if you even if you know it's coming,
Yeah.
it's difficult to deal with. And that's really what makes Semper such a strong candidate to knock out a lot of really other strong players.
yes, and we saw right here that HuK did manage to take down this army, but Semper just decides, you know what, fine, that's okay. I will take down a bunch of your army.
Yeah.
And this was starting to look like a really scary moment for Semper, but HuK couldn't quite finish the game. There was just a little bit too much going on. Just that SimCity was just a little bit too much.
It really was. It made it very difficult to actually push on into. But still, HuK managed to continue to push on in and was able to get some good damage done. I mean, again, it just goes back to those storms, man. Like, if I was to say drops were what kept Semper in this game, storms are what kept HuK in this game.
This was where HuK went from having a commanding lead in the game to just absolutely... the game turned around so hard on him. He fought into those liberation zones. He thought he had Semper trapped, but Semper had just a little bit of room on the right to kite back into. And HuK all of a sudden finds himself with half the army that he went into the fight with, and the choice of either leave those liberation zones or lose everything.
Yeah, Semper was in a rough position over there, but he did manage again to come back again with those drops again. Coming back with those drops, the 1-2 punch, hit on the left, hit on the right. In fact, I think around this time is when we end up seeing that Liberator sieging up. You can actually see in the top left-hand corner, there is no mining going on in that little area.
Yeah.
There's just no movement because that Liberator has shut down everything.
Yes, and this is just, we're seeing
Yeah.
Semper go
Ham.
crazy Super Saiyan mode and just absolutely shut down
Yeah,
everything.
just like that. That Super
Whoa.
Saiyan transition. Going Brawly style, man. Getting the green hair and
Yep.
everything.
Yeah,
That's why he looked so serious at the end of that game. He was actually a Super Saiyan.
yeah. His hair did change color.
It changes you, man.
Yeah.
Going Super Saiyan.
Your eyes.
Your
it changes
eyes?
your eye color. It changes your DNA, I guess.
Does it?
How else does your hair and eyes change color? How can our eyes be real if mirrors aren't real?
I don't know, but you know what? I do know.